Welcome to the summit. This is the policy solutions to address rural challenges. And our session schedule and overview. As I mentioned, you please use the chat button to ask questions or provide comments. And if you're participating by phone, number 9 to indicate your hand is raised, and number 6 will mute and unmute you. I'm sure many of you attended this session and have at the Recycle Colorado Summit in the past, and perhaps even participated in the rural policy work session at the summit. Despite our being virtual this year, our goal is the same. We want to identify policy that will support rural communities and increasing waste diversion. We are hoping that this discussion that we have today will be as lively as our in-person sessions. We have invited 3 speakers from rural areas in Colorado to talk about their successful rural recycling models. After they have presented, we will gather in small groups, moving into breakout rooms to discuss statewide legislation on policies that could help rural areas improve waste diversion. Here's a quick schedule of our time together. Just to note, if you have not signed up previously for a breakout session, if you could, either 2 options. 1, go into chat and say which breakout session you would want to be involved in, which is either organics, bands, or hub and spoke model. Or you can put that in the chat, or you can rename yourself. So only if you haven't signed up for a breakout session before do you need to do that. So go ahead and either put it in the chat or rename yourself, and we will get you put into the correct breakout session when we move to that. Okay, moving on to introductions. First presenting will be Cathy Hall. Cathy is the Solid Waste Director for Pitkin County. She has been with the county for 7.5 years, but has worked in the solid waste and hazardous waste industry for over 26 years. Prior to working for Pitkin County, she was a project manager with SCS Engineers in Reston, Virginia, where she worked on landfill gas to energy projects and solid waste diversion programs. Cathy has a BS in geology from Ohio State University and an MBA from the University of Maryland. She is a SWANA certified manager of landfill operations and manager of compost programs. She is also a board certified environmental scientist in solid waste management from the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists. Cathy currently serves as the president of the Colorado SWANA chapter. And Cathy will be talking today about organics in Pitkin County. Next to speak is Jonathan Greenspan. Jonathan, or also known as Greenie, has been on the Western Slope for 36 years. He lives in Durango for 5 years and 31 years in Telluride. Besides starting the recycling program in Fort Lewis College, he has owned and operated the Zero Waste Center, Smarts Park, in Telluride, and had routes in neighboring communities from Rico, Telluride, Ouray, Silverton, and Montrose. Jonathan is a member of the Ecology Commission of the town of Telluride, as well as on the board of the Mountain Village Green Team that shapes policy and outcomes for these 2 towns and the ski area. In addition, he's been a member of NRC focused on rural recycling and is a member of the Recycle Colorado Policy Group and works on policy in rural areas. Jonathan also participates on the Western Slope Recycle Sector Group, focusing on Western Slope needs and collaborative programs. Jonathan now is working on plastics ban at our state capitol. He's also Zero Waste certified. So Jonathan will be talking about plastic bans. Finally, we'll have Reva. Reva Phillips participates in the daily operations of a cattle ranch and farm with her husband in the Pritchett area for the last 42 years. She's the town clerk for the town of Pritchett since 2001. She's also served on the Southeast and East Central Recycling Association Board since May of 1993. Has been the secretary and administrator for the organization for more than 10 years. Reva is also a representative of the Policy Committee for Recycle Colorado since 2018. I also want to thank Alyssa Rendell, founder and Zero Waste Guide for Evergreen Zero Waste in the Warren Fork Gap Valley, and Madison Muxworthy, Waste Diversion Director for the Yampa Valley Sustainability Council in Steamboat Springs, as co-champions for this session. Cathy will kick off our presentations, followed by Jonathan and Reva. Please note there'll be a short Q&A after the presenters, Madison, as I mentioned, will be facilitating that Q&A. So feel free to send the chat directly to Madison or to the group, and we'll follow up after. So Cathy, let's start it off with you. And you can just tell me to move a slide if I'm not doing that fast enough.
Okay, great. So I'm assuming you can hear me and everything? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining us virtually. I think this is going to be the wave of the future for the foreseeable down the path for the next year or so. But I'm here today to talk about rural compost operations and the Pitkin County story and our operation here at the landfill. Okay, next slide. So what is the Pitkin County Solid Waste Center? So we are an integrated waste management system. We're an enterprise fund. And what that means is best described is we're the closest thing to a business, county, or municipal government can have. So we don't take tax dollar revenues. We run completely on our own revenues that we generate. So part of our program here at the Solid Waste Center, there's a landfill. That's about 70% of the revenue coming in. We do a single stream recycling transfer. We have a year-round household hazardous waste program. We have a number of unique diversion programs. That includes mattresses, textiles, books. We have year-round e-waste collection and recycling. We process aggregate here. So being up near Aspen, we get a lot of rock and dirt that come into the landfill. So we'll process that out into road base or screen gravel, and we sell that. And then we take the soil into our compost soils program. And then what we're here to talk about today is our compost soils facility. So between that and the landfill portion of it, can you go back a couple?
Oh, sorry.
Between that and the landfill, you know, these are the two revenue generating programs. And being an enterprise fund, we try and work to make programs self-sustaining. So next slide.
Ah, sorry. There we go.
Wrong way.
My roller's very sensitive today.
So the compost facility is what we're here to discuss. We compost about 12,000 tons of material annually. We bring in food waste, grass and leaves, brush, and biosolids from the local wastewater treatment plants. We also included in our compost program is our topsoil and potting soil, our soils programs. And those are soils we bring in, we screen, and they're with compost. And these are all items we sell. Compost is probably the greatest diversion you can have. It is generated locally, we process it here locally, and we sell it locally. There's no long hauling for it. Single stream recycling, again, we transfer that out down to Denver. That's 186 miles from us that single stream recycling has to go to be processed at an extraordinary cost. And to give you an idea, it costs us about $33 a ton to manage compost. It's about $175 a ton to manage the single stream recycling. So what makes more sense? Compost. Out of that, we sell probably about 5,000 tons of compost and soils every year. It's a great revenue generator. We do hear a lot of communities that want to start a compost operation, but there's a lot of myths out there. We're too high of an altitude. Our compost facility is about 7,400 feet altitude. It's not too high. You can make it work. You need a lot of fancy equipment. No, you don't need a lot of fancy equipment. We have a loader, a trommel screen to screen the materials, and we recently bought a grinder to grind brush. We did have a windrow turner. However, we just sold that this year. We switched operations and went to a static pile. So we don't need to turn it as much. And in the breakout session, Liz Morrow, who is really the brains behind our compost operation, will be joining me in the breakout session. So she can talk more about kind of what we do on a technical level. A lot of people say we're too dry. Well, we are dry right now, but yeah, that is a challenge, but you know, you can make it work. We do have to water the piles. And then people say it costs too much. Well, in a couple slides, I'll be going over sort of the finances of the program. It doesn't cost too much. And again, run it like a business. You've got to get into that mindset. So yeah, next slide. Wrong way. So our program, so really what kicked us off and really to update and get our compost program moving and kind of modernized, we had a scraps program. We call it scraps. So we got a grant in 2015. It was an RREO grant from the state of Colorado to really launch, relaunch our food waste collection program and really get our composting program off the ground. So it was an $180,000 grant from the state, and that allowed us to buy bear-proof bins. We bought probably over 100 Barracuda bear-resistant bins. We have a lot of bears up here. It allowed us to buy buckets, 6.5-gallon buckets, right here. Countertop bins that we give out to customers right here. So that allowed us to buy these materials and get the program going. We also bought a bagging machine so we can bag our compost and soil products to sell right now. And so really how that grant came about was we did a 2015 waste sort and identified that food waste is a big part of the trash, about 17% of the trash. So yeah, we focused on that to get the food waste out of the trash. It's such a divertible material. So to give you an idea of how it's grown, in 2015, we had about 511 tons of food waste composted up here. In 2019, last year, that has jumped to 2,466 tons. So we're seeing a big difference. Next slide.
Sorry about that. My roller is super sensitive, so
too sensitive. So the financials of it quickly about it. Compost can be self-sustaining. Again, you got to look at it as a business. So last year, our total revenue for the program was $644,000. Our expenses were $445,000. So about a profit of almost $200,000. This is a very simplified version. I haven't shown here the full cost accounting with all the overhead added in, but you can see we make money. If you talk to Bob Yost at A1 Recycling or A1 Composting, he's going to tell you, you have to charge for materials coming in. A lot of programs say, how do you make money on this? You have to charge for materials coming in. There is a cost to process that material, to grind the wood, to screen the compost, to bag the compost. There are costs involved with it that you do have to charge for that material coming in. And of course, we sell it going out. So Liz, who you're going to meet in the breakout session again, did a market study comparison. And so this year, we should have done this years ago, but we're looking at how our compost compares to local compost sales. And so we looked at that, and we're going to be raising the prices because we are way underpriced for the product we generate. And again, looking at it as a business. And then on the next slide, we put a lot of money too in the outreach and education about our compost. And this year we launched the Small Changes Make a Big Impact campaign. It's a series of ads we run on local cable, in the movie theaters when they're open, print ads, local papers and magazines. So this year we budgeted about $85,000 a year. That's also for our single stream and other diversion programs too. It's not put all on compost. But if you want to go ahead and play the video, this is one for food waste. So yeah, thank you. And so yeah, so that's kind of the gist of our program. So it's successful. I hope to see you in the breakout room. You can meet Liz Morrow. A lot of you already know her, and we can talk more about it. So yeah, so that's my 10 minutes, and I'll pass it on.
Thanks, Cathy. All right, moving on to Jonathan. Jonathan?
Jonathan, you're on
There we
mute.
go. There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Greenspan. All my friends around here and others call me Greenie. I'm not sure how they got that name out of me, but they did. But nevertheless, I'm from beautiful Telluride, Colorado, and we're going to be talking about plastic bans. But before I go into that, I just want to thank everybody involved in the Recycle Colorado that has put on the summit and all these breakout sessions and all these sessions that we have. It's just been outstanding and really, really well done. Thank you very much. So plastic bans, why do we want to do this? Why is it so important? Next slide, please.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Okay.
We all know the science behind this. We've heard it, we've read about it, we've seen it, we've talked about it to nauseum. But these are just some of the regular examples that we see on a regular basis on plastics and some of the facts, some of the science. 91% plastic isn't recycled. Plastic takes more than 400 years to degrade. You can wrap a plastic chain around the earth 773 times. Here's a couple of really important ones. 2018, microplastic fell in the rain across the Rocky Mountains. $11 billion annually is being spent in the United States to clean up plastics. Next slide, please. So there's other reasons why we want to ban plastics besides what's going on in the food chain, what's in our fields and everything else that we notice on a visual basis, on a regular basis. Here's our little town. Yes, this is the 4th of July. And yes, the planes do fly that low during that day. It's a really fun day, but this is kind of a cross-section of our population. There's a black line across the top of my screen here, but what it says underneath it, the populations for the town of Telluride and the populations of the town of Mountain Village, which is connected by a gondola. That's our transportation system. We have just under 2,500 people that live in the town of Telluride, just under 1,500 people that live in the town of Mountain Village. Our tourism is, our economy is tourism, winter and summer. If that black bar can move, there it goes, thank you. And it's obviously tourist. Now on the gondola alone, we carry 3.4 million people of rides. That's me going 20 times a week, so there's 20 rides there. We sell over 500,000 lift tickets. That doesn't mean that everybody here is skiing. That means that most of the family probably is skiing, maybe grandma and grandpa is not. But what that translates down to is about 560 to 600,000 visitors come to Telluride. So it's a pretty big economic, it's our economic engine, but it's a pretty big impact. These figures are based upon the wastewater treatment plant and what goes through that system. Next slide, please. So to give you an idea of how waste stream is picked up in Telluride Mountain Village, the point of origin for one hauler is Montrose. Montrose to Telluride, back to Montrose, it's 65 miles away, through all the streets of Telluride Mountain Village, to Grand Junction, and then back to drop off their materials. The other hauler is based out of Natarita. Listen to this routing. Natarita, Telluride, back all through the streets, to Montrose, back to Telluride, back to Natarita. There is approximately 300 miles traveled in one day each truck. And if you really think about it, the hours, the amount of emissions that are coming out of these trucks is enormous. 8 to 10 hours a day. Fuel consumption, 3 to 5 miles per gallon in one of those compacted trucks. And here's the contents of one of our contracts in our area for one of the haulers. And this is a paragraph out of it. Warehousing of recyclables. Should the market of any recycled product listed herein become soft or non-existent, contractor shall warehouse the product and notify town of market situation. Contractor shall continue to collect and warehouse the product until such time as viable market develops or the town manager, etc. But look at the bottom here. No product will be warehoused for more than 2 months, meaning that that product will most likely find its way to the landfill in 60 days. So even after you bale this stuff, you don't get enough for a whole truck for 6 months, it ends up in the landfill. So the amount of faith that a community has that it's actually getting recycled is bleak at best. Next slide, please. Oops, there we go. Go one back, please. Okay, sorry, you're right. So, solutions. This is what we started to do. We created a zero waste plan back in 2008 with Gary Liss and Associates. And it said zero waste by 2025 or close to it. What I've been trying to display in the last few seconds here is the cost of recycling, the fuel, the impacts to the environment. And then, of course, more recently, common consumption areas, that's what CCA is, which now the whole state has, which you're able to carry containers throughout the community. And COVID, and there's discussion about the virus staying on surfaces longer than others. I know it's up to debate, but there is some scientific fact behind it. So in this first paragraph, I'm going to be talking about the rule of common consumption, what it says in the state law for common consumption. This is kind of pieced together, but it's one paragraph in there. Seller provide an alcoholic beverage to a customer for consumption within a common consumption area, but not within the licensed premises unless the container is disposable. Unless the container is disposable. In the Mountain Village, where we used to have evening concerts, larger evening concerts, but they were halted because of the virus, we were throwing away about 25,000 cups for the summer. 25,000 plastic cups. And it was just the enormity of the trash stream it was just disgusting. Okay, the second one, this is the preemption law that's also in the state, local government's preemption. No unit of local government shall require or prohibit the use of or sale of specific types of plastic materials or products or restrict or mandate containers, packaging, labeling for any consumer products. So those two paragraphs, those two laws are in direct conflict with our zero waste program, in direct conflict with it. Next slide, please. What can you do about it? What can you do about it? Well, some of the people that push back the hardest are the American Chemistry Council and the Restaurants Association. For pretty obvious reasons. They want to be able to promote a product as well as be able to have people to take containers to go. But for these communities that have a home rule charter, and most, if not, I don't know how many exact communities have a home rule charter in Colorado, but it's significant. But this is what the Home Rule Charter says. They are all about the same. The formatting is just a little bit different. And I'm going to read out the highlights to this. It says, reservation of power, the power to supersede any law of this state, now or hereafter in force, insofar as it applies to local or municipal affairs, shall be reserved to the town acting by ordinance. And then finality of that, the enumeration in this charter of certain powers shall not be construed to deny town of any right or power. So again, there's a way here that if you need to ban this stuff, because we are trying to be responsible for our waste stream here. What comes in and goes out, we import everything and export everything. So we need to be responsible in this valley, the San Miguel Valley, with our waste stream. Next slide, please. Other things you can do. So the Ecology Commission that Sarah referred to early on that I'm a member of, and the green team of the Mountain Village, we started two different campaigns, ironically enough. On the Ecology Commission, two town council members were on that board, are on that board, and they asked a couple of us what we could do about straws. So we started a whole program called The Final Straw. It's not dissimilar to a lot of them across the country and world. What we did was we went to about 75% of the restaurants and bars and hotels and grocers and asked all of them, what they thought about it. A 10-person a survey that included one question that said, would you support an ordinance? In the Mountain Village side, we did Planet Over Plastics. And they started off by doing, the town council did a resolution that stated that we will voluntarily try to drastically reduce the single-use plastics with the local merchants to our zero waste goal. That one was a little bit more involved. It did a lot of questionnaires, a lot of volunteers, did an inventory of how much plastics were there. It was pretty large in volume as far as the effort to go through all that. But as the next slide will show you, this is the resolution that came from the Mountain Village. And as you can see on the screen, it was a grassroots program, and all single use should be given only upon request. These are just measures and steps to be able to move forward. We're trying to minimize waste and cost, trying to educate the merchants, saying your trash bill will be going down if you use a different type of product or reusable. But the key thing here, starting January 1st, 2021, this is for the Mountain Village side. No single-use plastics, including plant-based, should be used. Reason why we say plant-based and compostable for now is because we don't have a facility nearby that we can take this stuff to without another significant cost. So we try to look at other alternatives to help these businesses out. We are very, very close in having this ordinance passed on both sides of the hill. Yes, we were waiting for the legislation, the state legislators to eliminate that one paragraph that was the preemption to allow us to move forward. Unfortunately, that did not work this year in the 20 session. I've heard through yesterday and talking with a bunch of people on and offline that it's coming back. So a lot of communities such as ours are looking to be more proactive, to be able to be ready for when that preemption is activated, or I should say removed, so we can move forward with a ban. Again, being responsible for our own stuff. And it doesn't necessarily we just draw the line and ban it. We're looking for incentives to have reusables. We're working with our county health director right now to say, let's get away from the trash, the once used to-go containers and move to a reusable. We're going through details about that right now. But gosh, with all the amount of distance that we have to travel, the cost and the trust of the community saying it's actually not getting recycled. And then if we can't recycle it, then guess what? We don't really need it. There are other alternatives. Next slide, please. Oh. So in closing here, and if you go into our breakout room, you'll meet our wonderful Mayor DeLanie Young, and we'll be talking about these issues. One of the things that I encourage all the home rule charter folks, so let's get together and work on this together, so we don't have to have the problem of plastics infiltrating our landfills and create a better landfill diversion. I'll be looking forward to your questions after the next session.
Thanks, Jonathan. All right, Reva, moving on to you.
I almost forgot to unmute. Wouldn't be good. Well, everybody else did such a wonderful job on their presentations and seemed so professional. So I'm a little nervous about this, but we'll wing it and bear with me. I'm really happy to be able to speak with all of you today about the hub and spoke aspect of rural recycling. I believe we have a unique program which was designed for the needs of a very sparsely populated area. In 1993, a man by the name of Ray Laraveri had retired and was looking for something to do. Lucky for those of us in Southeast Colorado, he picked recycling. Ray had the time, knowledge, and drive to start a one-of-a-kind recycling program in our rural area. The first thing he did was send out letters to local municipal and county governments to see if there was interest in that project. After determining that there was in fact interest, Ray acquired a grant to begin the Arkansas Valley Recycling Pilot Program. This grant enabled the purchase of equipment for hauling materials and 1/2 of the cost of the bins used at the drop-off sites. In 1995, things were going well, but processing costs were becoming a large expense issue. The sorting facility was at Lamar and a private contractor was running it for us. Ray came up with another idea, which was to use prisoners as our workforce. An intergovernmental agreement with W.E.C.A. County, the owners of the local prison, was entered into. Using the prisoners gave them a skill that they could use upon their release, such as operating skid steers, forklifts, and balers, and the association received a much-needed break on the cost of our processing. It was a good scenario for both parties. About the same time, counties and municipalities in the northern part of the southeastern corner of our state, whom Ray had been in contact with, acquired another grant which enabled them to join our program, and Southeast and East Central Recycling Association was born. This second grant helped pay for additional containers for new drop-off sites in the area. We leased an old sugar beet facility in Los Animas and moved our processing facility to this location where we still are today. In 2017, the use of prison workers was not as beneficial as it had been. Benton County was no longer involved because they had sold to a private company, and the company wanted us to pay more, but without giving us a say regarding who the guard was that would oversee the prisoners as well as our facility, and there were problems getting prisoners who could qualify for the work release. At that time, we decided it was time to go in another direction. We were able to purchase the building that we had been leasing, hired individuals in the area to be our workforce, giving us a lot more control over the quality of our product and flexibility on when we could do our processing. We have 3 full-time and 2 part-time employees and process approximately 1,500 cubic yards of material per month. Our collection unit is a semi-trailer with a crane mounted on it. The crane is used to empty the bins at the drop-off sites into the trailer. The trailer has 3 compartments with a dump with hydraulics. The truck offloads at the facility and materials is put on the conveyors for another sort to remove contaminants for better quality product to sell. We use a broker, Centennial Recycling, to broker our products. Obtaining truck services in our area is difficult, and I have found the easiest and most reliable way to have the broker obtain the shipping method and pay for it. The only product we don't use the broker for is glass. We use a local grain hauler to ship our glass to Miller Coors and Momentum Recycling. Our truck driver logs about 2,300 miles per month while serving approximately 40 entities, which include municipalities and counties. I let the driver set his route and the frequency of pickup at the locations due to the fact that he is in the field and sees what needs to be done and when. The sorting facility equipment includes a horizontal baler, a conveyor for the baler, a magnetic conveyor that enables the sorting of aluminum cans from tin, 2 skid steers, and a forklift. In the beginning, all the equipment that we purchased was well used. Over the years, we have been able to upgrade and replace most of the original equipment. Whenever possible, we use businesses within our service area to purchase as well as service our equipment. The drop-off bins are manufactured in Lamar, Colorado, and the new collection trailer will be manufactured in Burlington. By buying local, we are able to give back to our communities as well as save on shipping costs. We accept newspaper, tin and aluminum cans, glass, colored and clear, and cardboard. Each drop-off site has a minimum of 4 containers, one for paper, clear glass, colored glass, and another for tin and aluminum cans. The containers range in size from 10 to 8 cubic yards, and the cardboard collections are a relatively new addition at some locations. This is a product that we are gradually expanding. Our program is based on a per capita fee for those entities that are involved in the program. We charge 17 cents per month per person, and it is billed quarterly. This comes to $2.04 per person per year. These per capita fees help to offset the cost of running our operation. Since commodity prices have been so low in the recent past, these funds have been imperative to keeping us financially solvent. I constantly look for opportunities to apply for different grants as well as unusual money sources. Throughout our history, grants have been secured from different sources, the Colorado Department of Health being an enormous resource for us. In 2001, a low-interest loan was secured from CHAPA for a collection trailer. Local organizations such as schools, communities, and business groups have purchased some of our drop-off bins. The RREO glass rebate program has been extremely beneficial to our association, especially in the last couple of years with the low commodity price. We have received grants from CDPHE for a concrete slab for glass collections, and most recently a new collection trailer. We also received many grants to purchase additional drop-off bins and signage. Some of the issues that I have found difficult are, as with most businesses, the first issue would be in finding competent help. Finding help that can run all the equipment required for our business, as well as have the responsibility to take care of it. We are very fortunate right now that we have an extremely good workforce, and I have a lot of confidence in them, and they help the program run smoothly. The price we get for commodities is also a constant concern. We have received anywhere from $30 to $130 per ton for cardboard, while paper has gone from $30 to $185 per ton. When the prices are high, we have reinvested in new equipment and upgrades to the building while putting money into reserves. Glass has been the only product that remains steady at around $30 per ton, but that amount only covers the cost of shipping to the product to the processor. For any rural area wanting to start a program like ours in their area, I would encourage you to think outside of the box in every realm of the business. Don't limit your money sources. Think of unique ways to obtain your workforce, as well as unusual buildings that may be available in your service area for use. Getting support from your local government officials is also important, as well as developing a good relationship with them. Thanks for listening to my spiel today, and I appreciate it.